Okay, I want you to picture something with me for a second. And I have a feeling this is going to be, well, uncomfortably familiar for a lot of people listening right now.
I think so.
It's 6 in the morning, mid-January. It is absolutely pitch black outside. The alarm goes off, and you feel this weight.
And we're not just talking about being groggy here. This isn't, staying up too late watching Netflix.
No, it's much deeper. It's a bone-deep, almost spiritual kind of tiredness. You drag yourself out of bed, feet hit the cold floor, you leave the house in the dark, and you head for the station.
The train.
The train.
Yeah.
You get on, and if you're lucky, maybe you get a seat, but let's be real, you're probably standing.
Oh, absolutely. Pressed up against strangers.
In the winter, it's that specific, suffocating, humid warmth, just heavy with other people's breath, damp coats, the flu going around.
And in the summer, it's just a sweatbox.
And you do this for an hour, maybe 90 minutes, every single morning.
Just to get to an office, to a desk under artificial lights.
Where you stay until it's dark again. You leave in the dark, you come home in the dark. And then you do it again the next day.
And the next. For 30 years.
It's a really grim picture when you lay it out like that.
It is. But for thousands of people, and specifically within the Caribbean diaspora in the UK, this isn't just a bad week. This isn't a temporary grind.
It's the defining rhythm of their whole adult life.
It's the very texture of their existence. Yes.
So today we are unpacking a piece of writing that just takes a sledgehammer to that entire routine. It's an editorial titled, "Why the Diaspora Can't Afford to Wait," written by Dean Jones, who's the founder of Jamaica Homes. It was just published yesterday, January 26, 2026.
And look, this is not just a real estate brochure dressed up as an article. It's a polemic. It's a real wake-up call that frames the migrant experience, particularly the Caribbean experience in the UK, as a race against time.
So the mission for this deep dive is, well, it's pretty clear. We're going to explore why the idea of waiting for retirement to finally find your dignity might be the most dangerous gamble you can make.
We're going to look at that intersection of migration, housing injustice, and the psychology of investing.
And we're going to answer a question that makes a lot of people squirm.
Is readiness just a complete illusion?
Exactly. Let's start with that dangerous idea that Jones talks about. He describes the daily grind we just visualized, but he really focuses on the psychological toll.
The decades of repetition.
Right.
It's not just the travel. It's what happens when you actually get to the office.
Right.
Jones argues that the tiredness isn't just physical. It's the exhaustion of, working twice as hard to get half as far. He describes a scenario that I think is going to resonate with so many people. You're the one studying at night. You're the one taking the extra certification courses. You are doing everything right.
Following all the rules.
All the rules. But instead of being rewarded, you're watched with suspicion. Or worse, you're just ignored.
He mentions that specific pain of training someone. Maybe they're younger. Maybe they have fewer qualifications than you. And then 2 years later,
What happens?
They're your manager. Ugh.
They are conducting your performance review.
That hit hard. That detail just really grounds it.
It does. And then, as Jones points out, you eventually get restructured out of a job or sidelined, and you have to start all over again somewhere else, proving yourself from zero.
He says the diaspora has been sold a lie, a kind of deferred dignity.
This is the absolute core of his argument.
Yeah.
The lie is that if you endure quietly, if you swallow enough microaggressions, and if you sacrifice hard enough for long enough, there's a pot of gold waiting for you at age 65.
The belief that the system, the corporate system, the national system, will eventually just turn around and say, thank you for your service, here's your comfort, here's your rest.
But Jones says that dignity, it doesn't just arrive in the mail with your first pension letter.
No.
He says time collects its debt, and it collects it with interest.
We should get specific about the physical toll this deferred dignity takes. I mean, the article lists them out. It's a brutal checklist.
It is. High blood pressure,
Diabetes.
joint pain, fading eyesight.
It's the body just keeping the score. You spend 40 years in a high-stress environment, eating on the run, sitting in a chair. I mean, that has a cost.
A huge cost. You reach 60, the age you plan to finally start living, and you realize your body is slowing down right as you're trying to speed up.
The engine is just worn out.
It's worn out. And the tragedy, according to Jones, is what's actually waiting for many people in that UK retirement. It is not a golden age of leisure.
It's a small pension and a cold house.
Literally a cold house. He paints this picture of retirees sitting in homes with the heating turned way down because energy prices are just too high.
And loneliness.
That's the kicker. Loneliness. You've spent a life serving systems that were, frankly, never designed to care for you once you stop being productive.
That phrase, systems that never intended to care for you, that is a harsh reality check. But is he being overly cynical? Or is there evidence to back that up? It's a big claim.
It is harsh, but he backs it up with history. And this is where the article pivots to something very timely.
The Windrush connection.
The Windrush connection. Because this isn't just about bad luck. This is structural.
Okay, so the article references updates to the Windrush compensation scheme announced just this month, January 2026. Walk us through this. What's changed?
So these updates are critical for understanding the why behind his argument. As of this month, the UK government has overhauled parts of the scheme. So claimants can now get 75% of their compensation up front.
Okay.
And crucially, they're prioritizing older claimants and those in poor health.
On the surface, 75% upfront. That sounds like progress, like they're trying to get the money out the door before people pass away.
On paper, yes, it looks like progress. But Jones points out that this urgency is actually a quiet admission of failure, an admission they waited far too long.
Yeah.
But the most important detail here isn't the speed of payment. It's what the scheme is finally recognizing.
Okay.
For the first time, it formally recognizes lost pension contributions and long-term financial damage.
Wait, I want to double-click on that. Why is the recognition of lost pension contributions so significant?
Because for years, the narrative around Windrush was all about immigration status passports, deportation threats, the right to remain, and those things are obviously critical, they're life and death.
Of course.
But Jones argues, and the economic data supports this, that the real catastrophe was housing exclusion.
Housing exclusion, you mean like being denied a place to live?
I mean, being denied the ability to build wealth.
Yeah.
Think about it. You had thousands of Caribbean migrants, Jamaicans, Bajans, Trinidadians, all living and working legally.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the hostile environment policy, they were suddenly told they had no right to rent, no right to own.
So banks were just denying them mortgages.
Mortgages denied, social housing applications blocked, people lost existing tenancies. And this all happened during their peak earning years, their 30s and 40s.
Okay, I see where this is going. If you can't buy a house when you're 30.
You lose the compound benefits of equity. That is the economic tragedy here. It's not just about being homeless for a month, though that's horrific.
Yeah.
It's about not having that asset growing in the background for 30 years.
It's the difference between paying rent for 3 decades and ending with nothing.
Versus paying a mortgage and ending up with an asset worth £500,000.
The damage is generational.
Exactly. You remove that possibility of asset building from an entire group of people. And Jones's point is, look at this. This proves the system does not guarantee dignity.
It doesn't matter if you were loyal.
It doesn't matter if you paid your taxes. Relying on the system to take care of you in your old age, it's a gamble.
And for many, it's a gamble they lost. The article implies that even with this new compensation, this 75% upfront, many people just won't live long enough to rebuild what was taken.
Compensation can't buy back time. That's the brutal truth. It can't rewind the clock to 1995 and let you buy that modest terrace house in Birmingham that would be worth a fortune now.
You can't retrofit 30 years of compound interest.
You just can't.
So if the system in the UK is a gamble, and the whole wait-and-see approach is dangerous, what's the alternative? The article pivots pretty hard here.
It does. It pivots to the concept of home and, where you put your resources.
Yeah.
Dean Jones argues for investing in property back home, Jamaica, the Caribbean, but he frames it in a very specific way.
Right. He says it's not about nostalgia. It's not about sipping rum punch on a beach.
Correct. This is not about looking back through rose-tinted glasses because you remember it being nice when you were 10. It's about leverage.
I love the line he uses. An investment property back home is not an escape plan. It's a grounding plan.
That's the key concept, a grounding plan. Think about the psychological shift that happens when you own an asset somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're still in London, still doing that freezing cold commute, if you know you have a house in St. Catherine or a plot of land in Manchester, Jamaica, it changes how you exist in the UK.
It changes the power dynamic.
It's a massive shift in agency. It reduces the fear. If your boss threatens to fire you, or the landlord hikes the rent, or the political climate gets hostile again, you are not backed into a corner.
Deep down, I am not homeless in spirit.
Not homeless in spirit. It's a beautiful way to put it. It's a psychological safety net that exists across the ocean.
And it allows you to say no more often.
Yes. You don't have to tolerate as much indignity because you have options. Jones is arguing that ownership provides a buffer against the harshness of the system. It changes your entire posture in the world.
And let's talk about that lifestyle contrast, because the article paints a vivid picture of the alternative to the cold house retirement in the UK.
Oh, it's night and day. In the UK, the fear is isolation. It's expensive heating.
Yeah.
It's a society that, frankly, doesn't really integrate elderly people into the daily flow of life. You become invisible.
Right.
Contrast that with the Caribbean reality he describes. Sunlight.
Yeah.
Community. A rhythm of life that doesn't punish aging.
And food that doesn't need explaining. I loved that detail. It seems small, but it feels so significant.
It's huge. It means cultural ease. It means not having to constantly translate your own existence. Walking into a market and just feeling an inherent belonging. But again, Jones warns against seeing this as just a nice lifestyle upgrade. It is about economics. Property markets in the Caribbean are still accessible to ordinary people in a way that London often isn't.
Okay, so let's play devil's advocate. If the logic is so sound, if the UK system is shaky and the Caribbean offers this safety net and a better quality of life, why aren't more people doing this?
That is the million-dollar question. And the answer, according to the source, is the myth of readiness.
We're waiting to be ready.
We tell ourselves, I'll do it when I have a bit more in savings, or I'll do it when the kids finish uni, or I'll do it when I retire. We treat it as the final step, the cherry on top.
But John says readiness is just an illusion?
It is, because while you're waiting to be ready, prices in Jamaica are going up. While you are waiting, your health might be declining. Waiting just leads to scrambling.
He has this quote that really stuck with me. I have watched people give the strongest years of their lives to countries that will never truly belong to them. Then, at the point where they should be resting, they are scrambling.
That image of scrambling, it's the panic of realized time, isn't it?
It's the panic of realizing you ran out of runway.
Exactly. You're 65, you're tired, and suddenly you're trying to navigate a real estate purchase and move your life. It's too much.
And he emphasizes that the investment doesn't need to be some beachfront villa.
No. And that's a huge mental block for people, I think.
Wow.
They picture a mansion in the hills with a pool.
Right.
And Jones debunks that. He says it can be a studio apartment, a fixer-upper, a modest home in a regular neighborhood. The key is ownership, not appearance.
Yeah, having the title deed.
Yes, because, and this is another crucial line, property is one of the few things that keeps working when you can't.
That's the fundamental difference between labor and capital, isn't it?
It's everything. Your labor has a limit. Your back will eventually give out. You cannot work 14-hour days forever. But a rental property,
that works while you sleep.
It works when you're sick. It works when you're retired. If you don't make that transition from labor to ownership, you are at the mercy of your own physical decline.
And for the diaspora, who often have to work twice as hard just to stand still, that transition is even more critical.
It is. Jones calls on the diaspora to be braver and smarter. He says the tragedy isn't that people don't work hard. They work incredibly hard.
Of course.
The tragedy is that they work hard without that long-term ownership. A life without assets is a life where every setback just hits harder. You have no cushion.
It's really a call to redirect that sacrifice. You're already sacrificing. You're already getting up at 6 a.m. Just make sure that sacrifice is building something for you.
Not just for your employer or your landlord.
Yeah.
Precisely. It's about refusing to be discarded. That's the emotional core of this. The Windrush generation and the generations after have given so much to the UK. They helped rebuild the country. They staffed the NHS. They drive the buses.
But the lesson from history is that gratitude is not a currency you can spend in retirement.
Oof. Gratitude is not a currency. Yeah. You can't pay the electric bill with a thank you.
So you have to build your own currency, your own security.
Your own walls, your own roof. It's a shift from a defensive mindset, how do I survive this system, to an offensive one, how do I build my own system?
Taking control of the narrative of your own life.
Exactly it.
So let's bring this all together. We started with that feeling, that tiredness on the morning train.
The darkness, the repetition, the feeling of being a cog in a machine.
And we looked at the trap of thinking that if you just keep doing that, dignity will magically appear at the end.
The lie of later.
We saw the proof that the system fails. With the Windrush compensation updates, 75% upfront now, sure, but decades of lost equity that can never be recovered.
A grim reminder that lost time is the one thing you can't buy back.
And then we talked about the pivot, the shift from seeing a home in the Caribbean as a nice-to-have fantasy
to seeing it as a strategic, necessary grounding plan.
It's leverage. It's control.
It's the ability to age without fear. and to know that no matter what happens in the UK economy, you have a place that is yours.
You know, what strikes me about this whole deep dive is that it reframes the idea of investing. Sometimes we think it's about greed or just wanting more money for fancy things.
Right?
But in this context, it feels like an act of self-preservation.
It is self-preservation. It's resistance. Dean Jones puts it perfectly. Investing early isn't greed. It is refusing to be discarded quietly by time.
It's a way of asserting that your future matters,
Yeah.
that your comfort matters, that you are not going to let the clock run out on your own life.
And it challenges that whole later mentality. We are so conditioned to think, I'll handle that later.
But later is fragile, later brings diabetes, later brings arthritis, later brings energy bills you can't pay.
Later is a luxury we might not be able to afford. The message here is that now is the only time you actually have.
So for everyone listening, whether you're sitting on that train right now or you're just thinking about your own 5-year plan, this article poses a really tough question. We always ask, can I afford to buy property back home?
But when you look at the trajectory of the system, the fragility of the body, and the reality of a pension-only retirement, the real question is, can you afford not to?
That's the question we're going to leave you with today. It's a heavy one, but maybe it's the push someone needs to stop waiting for a readiness that is never going to come.
Action over waiting. Every time.
That's it for this deep dive. As always, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.
Stay grounded.